Hello and welcome. What we're looking at here is the Virtual Guitarist Iron plugin. You've probably seen walkthroughs, tutorials and demos online of the other Virtual Guitarist instruments, the Sparkle, the 6-string electric, Amber, the 6-string steel strung acoustic, the more recent Silk, which is a nylon strung guitar. This is the fourth, which is Iron. Iron is dedicated to rock metal, but as I'll show you, can be poppy as well. It's a 6-string electric with the option of a drop D tuning that allows you to use the riff generators that this company have incorporated into it, which are live, real performances made by a guitarist. And you can change tempo, you can change key, you can play pretty much any chord you want to play with one hand and adjust the style phrases with the other hand. It's also got a wealth of DSP processing under the hood, which allows you to play with the tone and timing and other aspects of your guitar playing. I'm not a guitarist. I could just about strum a rhythm on an acoustic or an electric guitar, but by no means would my guitar playing be considered useful in a recording environment. So quite often I'm relying on session musicians or beg, borrowing and stealing loops and other things to try and get this show on the road, as it were. And when Virtual Guitarist by Steinberg dropped off the planet, the team set up this new company to develop new guitars. So 4 guitars so far, and I'm hoping there'll be more guitars in the pipeline. So let's get down and see what Virtual Guitarist Iron is up to. Along the lines of all the other Virtual Guitarist plugins, you've got a preset selection at the top here, and this allows you to go through the presets that the company has made for you, which includes various styles: alternative punk, classic rock, electric, funk and soul, hard rock and metal, modern rock, things that aren't in 4/4, which is quite a nice one to have some options there. Not as many as I'd like, it'd be nice to have a few more. At the moment it all looks like it's 6/8 or 3/4. Be good to have some alternative timings as well there. You've got pop, a whole lot of poppy stuff, reggae and ska, and then some swing. So some shuffly and some swung phrases. These are the presets, and they are different to what appears in the second menu here. The second menu here allows you access to the complete range of styles, and you can see from the screen that there are a lot of styles I'm scrolling through. So just to re-emphasize the presets, select a style from this list and a series of processing, so the choice of various settings down the bottom here, as well as the timing options. And then you can then bypass or not use those settings and load whatever you fancy. So to be honest, the simplest way to see how this software works is load a preset and look at the bottom half of the window and see how the effects are working for you, and then maybe change your style. Once you've got over that, I just tend to load it up. This is my default setting when I load up this plugin. Everything is pretty much turned to nothing, and it's a nice clean sound, and I can just go through the style menu and find a style that I like. So I've selected here muted and open. I'm just going to show you the kind of thing this does. What I've got is I've got everything, as I said, set to pretty much 0, so it's a clean guitar at this point with no effects at all on it. What you've got is down the bottom 2 octaves. If I select the bottom 2 octaves from my keyboard here, you can see the keys going up. That bottom 2 octaves are dedicated to a common phrase library. These common phrases are available to all of the styles, so no matter which style you choose, you've got access to those common phrases, and that is really, really handy. So those common phrases are simply just sustained bar chords, sustained single notes, slides down, kind of chug 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 noises, and the classic alternative chugs and sustains, and we'll play through those in a few seconds. You've then got the style phrases, which is the next octave up, and that gives you 11 different styles and those are the phrases within the style you've selected. So for instance, I've selected muted and open, so I would expect this octave of style phrases to represent that style. So there'll be some muted and some open guitar phrases. C3 here, sorry, B3 here is the stop button. So no matter what you're playing, just press that button at any point and the guitar will mute. That's really handy because these are loops, remember, and they will stop when you take your finger off the key, but sometimes you need to override that and then suddenly put a stop in. Above that, you've got C4 up to E6, and those just over 2 octaves are where you enter the chords. Unlike the other libraries, this library is dedicated to distorted and rock phrases, so it's quite harmonically rich. So you may find that playing triads and trying to do suspended fourths and ninths and things like that gets a little bit grungy, a bit difficult to hear the tone. That may be what you're after. I found it's a very, very rich sound, especially when we start playing with some of the settings down the bottom. So they've thought about that, and they've set it up so if you just play a single note, for instance C4, it just plays bar chords. So it plays the first and the fifth. So if I just play C5 here, you can hear it just chugging away, playing C and G, which is brilliant. If you want to introduce the third, press the C and the E together, and now you can hear it's playing a triad. Press the G, makes no difference because it's already playing the triad. Get it? Which is brilliant. If you want to play a suspended fourth, just play the C and the F. And it'll tell you there above, C, sus4. Now you can modulate, back to C major, back to suspended, just take your finger off the button, it reverts back to the bar chord. So that's actually a really handy thing, because once you start layering up these sounds with other tones in your track and start putting on effects, you may lose some of those interesting pitches you've chosen. So just bar chords, they're neither major nor minor. Fantastic, really useful. Of course, you can do minors by simply selecting the root and the minor third. And there we are, C minor. And of course you can do sevenths as well, so C minor seventh is nice and easy. C7. So you can do all those clever chords, brilliant. But for this kind of genre of music, bar chords tend to work very well, unless this guitar is in the front of the mix. So that's how you select the pitches. Another thing to notice on this one, which is different from the other libraries, they do this, they put little extra twists in every library, which is really nice. You just pick them up by mistake sometimes, or of course you read the manual and it tells you. Because this is a metal and it's bar chords, there are different inversions of bar chords that you may want to do. So if you play from C4 to C5, it plays lower chords. So you hear the G there, it says chord G low. Play the G an octave above, it says chord G high. So you can use that as you move up the keyboard, it goes from the low to the high, and it allows you at least 2 inversions. The other libraries don't all do that, which is really nice. And then right down the bottom here, you've also got the drop D option. So by pressing that, let's go to a chord that would matter. There's the high. There's a slightly lower inflection. So the drop D tuning is quite nice when you're doing kind of heavy rock as well. So this is muted and open, and this is the chords. And now at the bottom here, you've got your various settings. I'm going to leave it clean for the moment, because I think it really matters at this point to hear what these settings over here do, the thrust and the choice of guitar. So thrust, it's an interesting concept. It's essentially a harmonic additive device. It's rather like those BBE harmonizer units that you can get that add a lot of extra harmonics to your sound. And you notice it with the drive on, but it's much easier to notice when it's clean. So I'm just going to play a chord of C again, a bar chord of C, and let it chug away. And I'm going to slowly dial in the thrust. You'll notice I'm not using my mouse for dialing in. It's because I've got a little CMC Steinberg thing set up with the controls that which can do this. So if you just right-click on any of the little buttons, you can assign a CC control, and this is assigned to CC 101. So just press the key now, and then we'll dial in some thrust. So you could hear there it was bringing in the various harmonics, dominants and other harmonics of this, which is really quite nice because you can get some really great tones with that once you start adding some distortion. The final setting that's worth remembering while we're in clean mode is, like all the other libraries, the modulation lever is assigned to a muting option. So if I play a chord and dial the modulation lever up, it goes to a muted sound. If you dial up muted with the thrust, you can get some very cool harmonic chugs. So that's really useful to know. The guitar settings, twang, bite, soft and fat, pretty much are just tonal controls. So fat, lots of rich low and mid tones. Soft, gets rid of some of the high tones. Bite, brings in more of the mid and the high. And twang is like someone's turned on the loudness button, and it's got rich, deep tones as well as the high tones. So that essentially is like choosing different pickups, but not quite. It's more of an EQ and compression than it is pickup selection. I'm not quite sure what pickups this was recorded with. Maybe I should have read the manual. Down the bottom here, you've got the drop D and the doubling. Doubling just makes everything much wider. And without it, it's still a stereo signal, it's just a lot more centrally panned. There's a touch of delay in there, there's some phase inversion going on, so actually that's really nice just to widen your sound. Right, now this is why you wanted to listen to this instrument, because it's got overdrive and other settings. So it's got 5 amplifier settings, the standards that you'd expect to see on a virtual guitar interface: clean, crisp, cream, crunch and metal. So I'm just going to leave the drive somewhere out the middle and just dial through those. This is the clean. Now crisp. Nice little bit of overdrive there. Cream. Bit more of a rock tone. Crunch. A few more harmonics and a little bit higher on the EQ. And then finally metal. Much more overdrive, much more distortion. And you can dial in. You can dial in as much drive as you like. Someone I heard say about this instrument is it's not metal enough. Well, if it's not metal enough, make it more metal, if that's possible. What I've got is plugged into this audio chain. I'm just going to turn it on. Is the UAD ENGL E765 amp sim, as well as a little bit of reverb. And I'm just going to show you that interface on the screen. There he is. So that's the ENGL amp with a cab sim as well. One of the UAD plugins I use quite a lot on guitars. So remember, this was the clean sound. Now shove in the UAD. Bit of doubling. And if that's not heavy enough for you, let's shove in some cream and some drive. And then metal. So you can really ramp up the distortion on this, and that's just using one of the UAD plugins. You could also add, one of the Steinberg plugins or any of the other VST plugins that comes with your DAW. There are plenty about. So you can really ramp this up and distort it far more than the interface allows you to do. But I'm going to turn off those just for the moment and go back to what this has to offer. Otherwise, it's not a very fair walkthrough. So that's the whole setup. What I'm going to do now is just go through a couple of the presets, pretty much like all the other Virtual Guitarist plugins. There are, tens, I wouldn't say hundreds, but certainly tens of phrases, 30 or 40 phrases to choose from. And if you go through all of those styles, you'll be here all afternoon. You can download a demo. They give you a very generous 30-day demo on this, so you can have a play with everything in your own time. But I'm just going through the basics here. I'm going to choose this muted and open, and I'm just going to walk through these 11 phrases. The good thing about these phrases is they're not grossly different. I don't know if you've used other virtual guitarists in the past by other manufacturers. Sometimes they give you 4 phrases in a certain style, and all 4 phrases are so different that you can tell a mile off that you switch from one to the other, and then you start hearing the same thing over and over again in the music that you're writing, which is kind of frustrating. So what they've thought about here is that they'd rather have a lot more styles and subtle changes in phrases than just having oodles of styles and oodles of phrases. They've been quite clever in that respect. So I'm going to leave this actually on the Cream amp, because I think the Cream amp is where I want to go, and I'm just going to walk through the style phrases that are available to us from C3 up to B flat 3. So this is, I'm just going to play a chord of E major, the standard bar chord of E. You can tell this is a 2-bar phrase. And then we hit the stop button. So you can see there's a lot of little phrases. It's not just a chug, 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 chug. It's got the rhythm running through it, but then you've got the all alternating open chords as well. So it's called muted and open. That's exactly what it says on the tin. So you can see you can really build up phrases very easily just by, I just alternated between an E and a B, and just by choosing the style phrases, you can actually generate a fairly decent rhythm section. If you don't like the quantized nature of this, maybe it's a little bit too quantized for you, a little bit too tight. You've got the option on the right hand side to offer a little bit of swing, and you've also got the option on the right hand side to push and pull backwards or forwards on the beat. Difficult to play that without something going bang in the background like a drum beat or a click, but essentially the feel push and pull is actually quite a nice one to bring a guitar back a little bit in time, that just gives it a little bit of lag or a little bit of forward thrust. The swing, as the name suggests, if I just play a chord. Lovely bit of swung there. And you can see you got swing between 0 and 100%, and you can just kind of drag that through, which is really nice. So you've also got a speed selector, a half speed, normal speed, and a double speed. Yep, let's leave that at 1 speed. Down the left hand side you've got your common phrases. This is a really good feature of all of these libraries. You heard those style phrases, they're all very nice, but they're all muted and kind of chuggy. And maybe in this track I don't want muted and chuggy all the way through, but I don't want to load up 2 different instances of this instrument. It doesn't use up much memory, but maybe I'm just feeling a bit lazy and don't want to open up hundreds of different tracks to load different phrases, and I just want some generic guitar phrases. And that's what this bottom 2 octaves are like here. The bottom octave last note is quite interesting. It's the silence note, so you press the silence button, play a chord, and of course it's silent. That's great to have. It's different from stop. Stop is a momentary stop, so you can see it just stops as you press the key, but when you release the key it'll start up again. So if I just play a standard chord there, Press the stop key and release the stop key. It allows me to re-trigger. If I'm on silent, doesn't matter what I play, it's not going to re-trigger. It's not going to play a chord for me. So that's quite nice to have, just in case you want to play this live and want to get out a jail-free card just to stop everything coming out. There is a latch function which will allow you to latch your loop so it continues to play even if you take your fingers off the keys. So maybe having a silence button in that case is a very handy thing, despite the fact that it is low C1, which on some keyboards may not exist if you've only got a 4 or 5 octave keyboard. But anyway, let's move on. So I'm just going to play a chord again. Let's move to B major, it's more fun, and let's just work up through the common phrases. Nice and easy, single note, and it will sustain until it runs out. No loop at all on that note. On the beat, repeated notes. Some rhythm. Now you've got a chord that just rings out until it's finished. Nice one for endings there. Some rhythm. Some gentle strums. Building on the rhythm of the strums. More strums. The classic chug. You'll notice that this one is very similar to C3 in this case because we've chosen the mute and open style, but it's not quite the same, which makes it quite nice. It's got a slightly different tone to it, different playing style. The B. Little doublet rhythm there. Now, Bryan Adams would be proud of this one. See where I'm going there. This is C sharp. Nice driving rhythm there. Full 16th driving rhythm. That's off the beat. Faster off the beat with some mutes. Kind of in your face driving. That's really great. A nice little drop in there as well. You can see how you can build up rhythms really quickly with this. We've then got the A flat. Nice developing strum there. Great. Everyone needs a bit of a chug every so often, and there we are. Really good to have in breaks. The B flat. Repeated 16th chugs. And then finally the B2, which is the drops. Which is really nice. So, for instance, if you remember where the sustain is, which is down there on E and F. The F is the repeated bars, and the E is a single sustain. So, for instance, you can choose this B, and finish tracks if you want to be corny and rocky like that. So those common phrases on their own give you a lot of scope, but then with the style phrases above that, you add them all together and get a really, really nice rhythm option for a track. So that's the kind of rocky side of it. Let's just go down through, 80s go again. I haven't had much time to go through all of these. Let's just see what 80s Go Again has to offer. You can see it's all chugging away there, which is fantastic. So these are all very much muted, open options. If you go through Boomba Chick, let's see what he has to offer. So some really great little rhythms. They've kind of thought about everything and tried to give you a bit of this, a bit of that. If you've got a track in process and you've got a rhythm you are looking for, this is the thing I think this plugin is lacking. You haven't got the option to say, "Look, I'm looking for a rhythm that kind of goes boomba cha 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 boomba." Where is that? It doesn't tell you. Some of the other virtual guitarist type plugins, some of the ones on Native Instruments for Contact and others, will give you that option to choose a rhythm, and it finds the closest match to that rhythm, and then you can slot that into your existing track. What I found when using this in a production is sometimes you get the right sound and the kind of rhythm you're after, but it's not quite right, so you either have to change the style of the track you're doing to make it fit the rhythm, or you just have to compromise and maybe use a mixture of style and common phrases. Bear in mind, you can switch, as you heard me switching, mid-bar, mid-note, anytime you fancy. So if I just play a chord, I'm just going to go a little bit bonkers down on the left-hand side. I'm just going to choose rhythmic fades, and I'm just going to choose various notes as I'm playing, and you'll hear you can just switch between them very quickly. So you can really generate any rhythm you want. To do that throughout an entire piece will probably ruin your day, but you can do it if you wanted to. So you could choose the rhythm that's closest and then combine the single phrases with the common phrases to try and give it the thing you want to go. Let's just go all the way up to the top and big accents. What has this got to show for itself? Wow, that's quite interesting. So big accents gives you that kind of option as well. So, you can just go through this. I suggest you download a demo and have a really good play, but you can see that this has a really good capacity to give you the kind of that rock guitar tone that you're looking for in your track. It's not limitless. By no means is it limitless. If you want limitless guitar playing, get a guitarist. But this gives you a really good way of getting rock rhythms in your recordings. Okay, so just to finish with, I'm going to choose Ballad Rock 16th. I'm going to add some thrust. I'm going to do the drop D tuning with some doubling. I'm going to add a nice little bit of delay, a little bit of chorus, a load of reverb, turn the amp up to crunch, and change the guitar to bite. And then just, this is the kind of the full tone that this has to offer. So you can hear I was just pressing random keys around the C2 to B3 range, and you can really mutate and play with the rhythm and add your own little bits to it. So this is Virtual Guitarist Iron. I think it's a really good little plugin, adds a lot of scope to your tonal palette, as they say, and get a demo, have a play, and then of course buy it and use it.